Do any of you have any questions? You had a dream of becoming an architect at a young age. I'm sure you've had a dream, though, of maybe, picking the perfect place where you'd like to live, your dream home. So pull is important, but pull may not lead you in the direction of your dreams. You may want to work one place, but you have opportunities that lead you to other places. How do you feel about that? Even though, you have an immense amount of skill, you're not really able to decide where you'd like to live because sometimes you have to depend on external assistance. Well, that's called professional mobility. And you need to be flexible in order to have flexible professional mobility. You need to go where the opportunities present themselves. And if it's not the right opportunity for you, you need to turn it down. You need to make sure it's the right company, it's worth your time and effort to make the move if it's a relocation. I have friends who are continually moving from place to place, and I just couldn't live that way. But again, for them, professional mobility, climbing the corporate ladder, and following those opportunities is important. When I moved to Dallas, I left Chicago because there were no job opportunities there any longer. I moved to Dallas because I had family connections. My brother was there. Again, I was able to work with smaller firms, gaining residential experience. When my brother passed away, there really was no reason for me to, when my partner passed away, there was no reason for me to stay in Dallas anymore. And so then I looked to moving to a new place, and San Francisco was where I moved to. Wonderful cultural experiences, beautiful architecture in San Francisco, just mind-blowing and beautiful. I happened to work for a deaf services agency to get my foot in the door in this new area that I lived in. And it was a stable job and a steady paycheck. And it was a good experience, I won't deny that. But while I was there, I was looking for other opportunities. I met my current husband. We've been together 21 years. I met him in San Francisco. He had a senior vice president position, stable paycheck, and so I was able to leave my day job and expand my own business in architecture. So again, what state you go to, where you may, where fate leads you down what path, you just never know. But if you end up in a beautiful place of your dreams, I'm in Palm Springs, California. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've been there 8 years. So my path was a little circuitous, but I was able to end up in a beautiful place. I can open my laptop and be in the sunshine. It's a wonderful life, I have to say. I have no complaints. But you are right. Sometimes our path takes us to places where we may not have intended to go. It's important to still have a goal, and even though you may not be able to directly attain your goal, you'll have experiences along the way as you get there, which are enriching. Does that make sense? Another question?
First, I'd like to make a comment. I loved everything that you just explained to us. It's very fascinating.
I'd probably say more.
You shared many points with us, and I'm wondering how, in one sentence, based on your experience, could you give us one sentence that we can take away from your lecture today?
Well, boy, one sentence, that might be impossible, but I know what you're asking me. I think I can't emphasize enough the importance in 3 words: quality of life. Quality of life. I have seen many people work themselves to the bone. Work is their priority over their health, their family, their relationships. They simply want to be successful above all else. I question what their quality of life is like, but that's to each individual to decide. For me, a family, work-life balance is crucial. Does that answer your question? I think it's about balance. I think it's about balance in your life. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Anybody? It's important because it's easy to lose sight of balance in your life when you really are working toward a goal of just being all about the money. If you've got a good, healthy family relationship, a happy home life, you're in good health, you have time to eat well, exercise, enjoy your life. I'm 62 years old, and so I try to keep fit, I try to stay healthy, I try to look good and enjoy life, and some things you have to let go, but take care of yourself always, even as you're working up the corporate ladder. Another question?
You shared with us about the ups and downs that you faced in your own professional career. What would you say would be the personal barriers that you faced and how you've overcome them? The top barrier, maybe number one barrier that you've overcome.
Well, I can think of two. On a personal level, the death of my partner had a great impact in my life. It was in the 1980s. At that point, people didn't understand AIDS. There was a great fear of it. So that was a traumatic event in my life. And from that, once he'd passed on, I moved to San Francisco. I realized that staying in Dallas, a very conservative area, probably wasn't for me. So that was a life-changing event. And let me think here. I think being laid off from Skidmore, Owing, and Merrill, I mean, there was wonderful people that I worked with. I really enjoyed that work, but it is what it is. Does that answer your question?
Are you happy?
Absolutely, I'm happy now, without a doubt. So there are barriers and life-changing events in your life, but you need to keep in mind that had those challenges not come my way, I would not have experienced the things that I did. I would not have moved to Dallas and gotten the residential experience. I wouldn't have moved on to open my own business. So when one door opens, remember another will. When one door closes, remember another will open. So even though it seems like an immediate challenge at the time, let it go, move on, don't look back. Don't be sad about the things that you experience as losses. Move on and move forward.
You went through many experiences, variety of jobs over your 44 years. Do you wish you had done some things a little differently? Could you, if you could, would you go back and change history, or are you accepting of what's happened and where you are?
Two things come to mind. Cornell University. I didn't take the time to make a strong social network and meet a lot of friends there. I had to spend so much time studying. And when I wasn't studying, I was off to Rochester, Boston, other cities. I wanted to experience the world, see what was out there for me. And I feel like I missed an opportunity to create a strong network because that's an affluent area. It could have been potential future clients for me, but it just didn't happen. And then, remind me of your question again. Oh, I think, right. Let's see, right. Let's see. I think that's probably the only thing I feel like I'd missed out on, my one regret. Another question?
Good exercise for you. You talked about the glass ceiling before, and I used to work in corporate America and experienced the glass ceiling myself. For a deaf graduate to go into the corporate world and experience the glass ceiling, do you think more assertiveness and education on other people, or what's your opinion on how you can overcome the glass ceiling syndrome? Should the person stick it out, or what should they do?
I think it's worth giving it a try. Advocate for yourself, educate your coworkers. Don't kill yourself doing so, but do give it a good faith effort. And then when you reach a particular point, you need to say, you know what, I've got to move on. corporate America, corporate culture is set in its ways. Now you may, once you let that go, find other environments in the business world where they're more friendly and welcoming. I had a friend of mine, Silicon Valley, an IT person, and they worked at Apple. They've worked at Google. And Oracle, they worked at Oracle, and they said Oracle was absolutely a cutthroat environment. This person is deaf. They've got bilateral cochlear implants. They speak for themselves, however, they do still work with interpreters. The management department, though, is located in India. It's very difficult to understand that particular accent, even with cochlear implants. And so for those types of phone-in meetings, they do rely on an interpreter. They do speak for themselves, though, so they're utilizing an interpreter to get the spoken message from the individuals they're speaking to. And this person, this friend of mine, was able to move up the corporate ladder, but remember I talked about the corporate pyramid, where there are many entry-level positions, but much more competitive at the top. This person didn't want to deal with the politics. They wanted to focus on just their work, the co-workers that they had in their team. But as they moved up the ladder, they felt that they had to deal with that type of issue, and they left. They didn't want to deal with it. My friend decided his quality of life was more important than moving up the corporate ladder. And now he works with a Salesforce team. It's a very open and welcoming environment. And they've built those connections through their previous work experience at Network. So they still keep connections there at Apple, pardon me. They still keep connections there. It was a bit of a musical chair environment as far as, you know, his climb up the ladder, but now he's on a team doing sales and really enjoys it, doing very well. Very happy. Any other questions? Any other questions?
So, talking about job strategies, how do you sell yourself as a deaf man in the corporate world? Because in the hearing world, they really don't know who you are, and they don't think you know anything, which is sad. So how do you present yourself?
Well, I emphasize my skills, my experiences, my resume. That's what I put first and foremost. Word of mouth is very important in networking and gaining opportunities. I almost worked for Helmut John in Germany, an architect firm in Germany. They had connections with a Chicago firm I worked with. They were interested in me because of my connection at Cornell University. So when my initial firm, Owing and Merrill, laid me off, it was an opportunity that presented itself to me, again, through that pull, that networking. I have kind of a funny story. I remember I went in to interview and got the once over, right? You know, the person I was interviewing with, we were dressed identically, same shirt, same tie. It was ridiculous, right? So you kind of look each other up and down and go, oh my goodness. But this individual had a very thick German accent. It was difficult to understand. I had to ask the person to repeat themselves. We worked together to negotiate communication. And one of the questions was, how do you communicate with people? And I said, well, initially communication will be challenging at the beginning, but keep in mind over time as we work together, we'll become familiar with one another, used to each other's methods of communicating. We may initially begin to write things back and forth using pen and paper, but may have to rely on that a little bit less. And I didn't want to insult the person, but I said, you know, it may, say for example, with a German accent like you have, it may take some time, but we will get used to one another. And so And I said to the person, you may have had individuals who've had difficulty understanding you because of your accent, but with a little patience and time, you can communicate with anyone. And so I tried to use an example that he would understand.
The question was, did I get the job? And the answer is no, but I didn't want to work for him because he was a diva. I don't know if that's the right way to call this man, but he had quite an ego. The way he presented himself at the interview told a bold story to me, and my friend who was helping me out that day seemed to be placating him at his every breath. So I know I did not at all want to work for him. You know, the show The Devil Wears Prada? That's who that guy was. Several of us are planning on becoming teachers, and what advice can you give to those of us who are students thinking about our future? I know that's a very broad question. How can we, the interpreter made a mistake, how can we as teachers, future teachers, help our future students with their own future?
I think it's important to introduce your students to mentors. Bring individuals who you know, who have experience, are currently working in the field. Bring them into your classroom, introduce them to your students. Give them the foot in the door to begin to make those networking connections. At NTID, they've got that kind of system already laid out. It's called the Virtual Academic Community, the VAC. It's Lisa Lott? Lisa Elliott manages that network of mentors. We offer mentoring, tutoring, and what was the third one? I forget, Lisa. Socialization opportunities. It helps fill in the gap because you are academic students and you're learning a lot about your field of study, but you need opportunities that help introduce you to those networking opportunities. Like I had the opportunity to sit and have dinner with Drs. Castle and Fresina, and they'd asked me, what is it you feel like you missed out on? What could we have done differently? And I said to them, well, mentoring opportunities. And now you have that here at NTID. Again, Lisa Elliott. It's the, let's see, what is he saying?
What is the exact address? It's at the VAC, Virtual Academic Community.net. You just have to... It's www.dhhvac.org.
So, take advantage of those opportunities and the resources here through that network. If your students aren't sure where they might be able to find a mentor or who they might be able to connect with, use that virtual academic community to assist them.